Hi, I'm Chuck Marunde, exclusive buyer's agent in sunny Sequim. So today I want to talk about buying a farm in Sequim. Now, for most people, that would mean a hobby farm or a family farm rather than a large commercial enterprise. But there are a lot of things to think about, even if you're just going to buy a family farm and turn it into a wonderful way to retire or to finish raising your children. And so what a lot of people know really, really well is how to take care of their chickens, their horses, their cows, their sheep, their goats. They know how to raise crops and on a small scale, and organic vegetable gardens, and lots of wonderful things when it comes to a family farm or a hobby farm. But having been a real estate lawyer for many years, there's a lot of details involved in the due diligence that most family farmers are not thinking about and never really had to until now when you're looking at buying a farm. So let me show you a little checklist I put together just to kind of trigger some thoughts in your mind so you can understand how important it is to address some of these issues before you either write an offer or during the due diligence process if you have mutual acceptance and you've got a pending transaction. Let's take a look at my checklist, and you'll be able to download this checklist. I'll give you a link to that below. All right, I'm calling this my due diligence checklist for family hobby farm buyers. And we'll start out in sections here. I've kind of divided it up into different sections. The first section is property and land characteristics. So you've really got to look at the usable land here. This is the total acreage. And I've shown a lot of people large parcels of property, including one that was 20 acres, and we got to the acreage and there was only about 2 usable acres. The rest of it all went down a steep slope. So this is a big thing, and when we say usable acreage, I'm not just talking about topography and what is obviously usable as you're standing there looking around, but there are also a lot of other issues. I won't go into great detail here, but there are easements that can prohibit you from using major parts of a farm. There are covenants that may restrict use of the sections of the farm. There are huge septic systems that, I'll touch on one a little later here, that can completely prohibit the use of a huge section or area of a farm. And there's a lot of other legal issues, especially related to neighboring properties. There may be easements and restrictions, covenants, all kinds of things that are related to the use of the property or how you can use it, related to adjacent properties that have certain legal rights. Look at soil quality. Now, here's something that a lot of hobbyists might forget to look at. Testing the soil to see if it's suitable. Now, the best scenario would be that you buy a little farm that has been organic and even registered organic if they were producing and selling any kind of crop, even on a small scale. But just keep in mind that maybe one of the items on your checklist is having some soil tested from various places on the property. You've got to look at drainage and flooding. That's another item on the checklist here. Pretty big deal on the Olympic Peninsula. We have a lot of water coming down out of the mountains, 200 inches in the Olympic mountain range, and that all drains down underneath us out into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So drainage and water table may be a big deal. There could be wetlands out in the farm field, and maybe when you're looking at it, the time of year you're looking at the property, you don't see any wetlands. But that doesn't mean that the Army Corps of Engineers hasn't designated a portion of the farm as wetlands, and so that's a consideration. Fencing, if you're going to have horses or animals that need to be fenced, fencing is not cheap. So, that's just obviously that's a pretty obvious consideration. But I'm telling you that fencing has gotten extremely expensive, especially if you're going to have to fence a 10 or 20 or 40 acre parcel. You've got to look at a lot of the legal documents, and this is where it really helps to have, a real estate attorney that you may want to engage. Even though I am retired as a real estate attorney, I don't represent my clients as an attorney. I'm their exclusive buyer's agent, and I don't give them legal advice. Now, the good part is, even though I'm retired as an attorney and not representing them officially as an attorney, it doesn't mean I have to forget everything I learned, right? And I can share it with my clients freely, and I do that. So there are a lot of other considerations, as you can see on the checklist. I'm not going to go through the entire checklist. You can do that. Pesticides, herbicides, the use history, utilities and infrastructure. Here is something that's obviously very important. You're going to be looking at the well, the depth of the well, the gallons per minute, the quality. Is there more than one well on the farm? Because some farms need a lot of water, especially for the animals. And so you'd be looking at that, and even possibly water storage tanks. You'll also be looking at the septic system, and that is no small issue these days in terms of environmental issues. And I'll show you something in a little bit on that was a concern on a farm that I showed some clients. There's a lot of other issues here on the farm, outbuildings, the barns. It's fun to have a 100-year-old barn, but was it maintained well? You don't want to have to tear it down and rebuild the barn. That could be quite expensive. So if you have an older barn, a 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100-year-old barn, another thing you might want to have inspected is the structure of the barn. Is it going to last? Has it been maintained, or is it really rotting? Are the great big posts rotting in the dirt? That's a serious issue. Outbuildings, driveways and roads, zoning permits and land use. Oh golly, there's a lot of legal issues here to look at. And obviously you can go through the checklist and see the kinds of things I'm talking about here. I also have a second page that carries over, and there are considerations about in number 5 here, livestock and agricultural readiness, fencing for the livestock, but also depending on the livestock you're going to have or the animals, the kinds of barns and shelters that are suitable, and you're going to need storage, presumably, for hay and other feed. We're going to have a lot of typical due diligence related to the home itself, the home inspection, and everything about the home. But there are taxes and insurance and legal issues. There's the property tax status. Don't forget that that property can be designated in different classifications: agriculture, farm, timber, and in those classifications you get huge tax exemptions or deductions or discounts. And so if you're going to buy a farm, you want to be able to continue any of those special classifications to save a lot of money on taxes. That has to be done properly. The county is going to require some very detailed paperwork, and the transition has to occur at escrow, and it has to be done right. So that's another consideration. You're lucky if you buy a little hobby farm here and you're on an irrigation system. Not all properties and farms are on irrigation systems anymore, and obviously that is a huge benefit. I'm going to show you an example here of some covenants. These are some covenants, conditions, and restrictions known as CC&Rs. And I'm going to show you on the second page of these covenants a rather dramatic paragraph. I mean, this is a paragraph that just killed a deal, actually killed 2 deals. It may actually kill the sale of this property entirely, and the listing agent seems somewhat unaware of the significance of this clause. So I want to point out only one clause in these covenants that is a deal killer for this farm. As you can see, it says animal husbandry. Horses, cows, llamas, and sheep may be reared, bred, or kept for the personal use and enjoyment of the persons residing on such parcel, provided that the number does not exceed 1 per acre owned, and such animals are confined to the property of the owner of the animals. No other livestock, poultry, or other animals shall be kept on any parcel except household pets, dogs or cats. Now, this particular farm has been chopped up and sold off. There's only about 15 acres left. I have some clients from Colorado. They have 16 horses, about 2 dozen sheep, lots of chickens. They have goats. They have a lot of animals. And this restriction right here, note that it says you can't have more than 1 animal per acre. That's 15 animals total on this farm. That kills this farm for many people with animals. But not only that, it says no other livestock, poultry. Boom, no chickens. Oh, my clients have lots of chickens. A lot of people who are buying a farm would have chickens. You can't own this farm and have chickens. Pretty shocking, isn't it? What idiot put that in these covenants? This was done in 1999. And so this is an old farm, maybe 80 or 100 years old. So somebody really screwed up, probably when they were subdividing and splitting off some of this property. But you have to be aware of clauses like this if you're planning on having a hobby farm. I'll tell you something kind of humorous. I was going down through dozens of legal documents on this farm, and lo and behold, here's an amendment to the covenants, and it's a beautiful document. A lot of the documents here are just a mess, and they're ugly, and they're not even done right. But these amendments here, or this amendment, look at it. What a beautiful document. Then I noticed at the top, oh my, Chuck E. Marunde was the attorney who drafted the amendment. I did this in 1999, 26 years ago. Oh, golly, I sure did good work. Now, the only other thing I want to mention about this property, looking at a hobby farm like this, a small farm, is that you've got to be careful about traps for the unwary, because the listing agreement and the listing agent do not share a lot of key information about this property, including the fact that there is a massive off-site drain field easement and septic system and drain field on this farm serving the adjacent 9 properties that the farm sold. And so there's a huge, this is like a community sewer system, and it's massive. And guess who has the responsibility for maintaining it? The owner of this farm. Now, I hope and would expect that the 9 owners of the homes adjacent to this farm, who are being served by the septic system, are paying a substantial monthly fee for the maintenance and operation of their septic system on this farm. But nevertheless, the farm owner has the responsibility. And this thing is an expensive maintenance. So this is going to scare a lot of potential buyers. But the other thing that this does is it takes many acres away from this farm. So I'm pointing all of these things out. I'm going to stop right there because when you're looking at a farm and the possibility of buying a farm, either in retirement or to finish raising your family, you really need to be looking very carefully at all of these kinds of considerations. And I call these traps for the unwary because you wouldn't expect that these traps for the unwary are all laid out here and that the listing agent not only did not disclose them in the listing or in the documentation or gather information to help buyers understand these things, But if you're not represented by an experienced buyer's agent, you probably wouldn't even find these things out unless you stumble onto them by yourself. And who's going to do that, right? So I just tell you, when during law practice, I used to use the word traps for the unwary. There are so many traps for the unwary, and especially in a very complicated subject area like this, buying a hobby farm where there are just so many legal issues. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. If you're looking at the idea of buying a farm on the Olympic Peninsula, let me just encourage you to engage an experienced buyer's agent who knows how to not only read the listing documentation and the attached document, but go way, way deeper than that. We got to go down a rabbit hole very deep to discover all the things that the listing agent has either not told you or doesn't even know that they should tell you. How's that? All right. Well, listen, I hope you've enjoyed this, and you'll find a copy of the checklist attached in a link below this video, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.